Welcome back, everybody. It's Monday, January 29th. John Aravosis here. Hello, all. How are we after a nice long weekend? Oh, hang on. I want to see how this looks on YouTube. I'm trying to adjust my light here, and it's getting... the light might even be strong. Sorry, let's... Oh, wait. Oh, it's right. It takes a second. I forget that there's the delay on YouTube. I'm trying to play with my lighting here. Now I probably made it too strong. Let's see. It's about a 10-second delay. Oh, yeah. It's like a 10-second delay. Oh, my. That is too strong. All right. All right. Not easy to figure this out. Because, like I said, it's a 10-second delay, so it makes it very confusing for me. Hold on. To adjust it while, like, looking at the screen. All right. I'm going to guess that's pretty good. All right. Let's hope that this is pretty good. You guys let me know. But... like I said, it's not always easy to figure this out. Where's the chat? There's the chat. There you are. Hello, everybody. Gunther, you have been gone. People were asking about you. Yes, at least over at Discord. People were a little worried. Glad you're okay. All right. I think we're good. Yeah. Okay. TikTok. I think it's good enough on the lighting. Not perfect. A little strong. Maybe it's a little strong. No. Hard to tell on the lighting. All right. Hey, guys. All right. Let me get TikTok rolling here. There's my chat. Okay. There you are, guys. All right. Go live. TikTok. Oh, no. Oh, God. I'm sorry, Gunther. That's like horrible on... well, the dog thing even worse, potentially, depending, obviously. But, oh, my God. Sorry. That's horrible. Sorry. Ooh. I can't even imagine the dog thing. Wow. Oh, hey, Deemer. I recognize your name, too. I mean, Gunther and I talked all the time, but I recognize Deemer as well. Good to see you back. Oh, that's horrible, Gunther. I'm so sorry. Hey, everybody. Hey, TikTokers. How are you doing today? We're just talking to the YouTubers. Hope everybody's well. It's Monday, January 29. We'll wait maybe half a minute and then get rolling here. But another busy news day, actually. Just Ukraine. And still, like, a lot of news. So, lots of news today. I know I shouldn't be having, like, my espresso this late. It's supposedly a lesser caffeinated one. We shall see. We shall see. I needed to pick me up. Live says subscriber only. I did that again. Okay. All right, 1 second. I got to adjust the settings over at TikTok. I had a subscriber only live. Oh, TikTok, don't confuse me here. Subscriber. Sub only chats. Here we go. There we go. All right. All right. Thanks, Ash. Hello. Hi, user. Sorry about that. Hey, Ryan. All right. We're better now. Hey, it gets confusing sometimes. What do you do? Thank you, Jetta, for the gift at LWD. So what is going on, guys? Bree made it before Callum. I know. Callum, you never quite know, you know. Oh, boy, adjusting this stuff. Anyway, yeah, we'll start in a second here. So welcome, guys. So this is the show I do Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S. It's about the latest news from Ukraine. And sometimes we cover other stuff. There's often, especially with over the next year, obviously, U.S. election, kind of hard not to cover that being an American, sort of American news-based. But nonetheless, mostly Ukraine war stuff. Today is all Ukraine war. Lot of news today, so we'll get rolling in a sec. The way the show works is I go through the news and, tell you guys what I think. My background's a lot of different stuff. Actually, thank you, Tom. Been in journalism. I've written for The Economist. I'm a lawyer from Georgetown. Georgetown law degree. I also have done a lot of international work. Thank you, Crazy American, over the years, including working at the United Nations. We don't like to talk about it, though I did do a video about it today on TikTok, so you can check that out. But in any case, so lots of different stuff. But what was I going to say here? Oh, hang on a second. There we go. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So anyway, I'm going to get rolling. Please do keep the gifts coming. I always tell folks that I'm doing this full time and have been doing it full time since the war broke out in Ukraine for 2 years. The way I'm able to afford doing this is with your gifts. Nobody else pays me. You guys are the ones who pay me. So your gifts literally help me pay the bill. So thank you. All right, let's get rolling. Ukraine, day 704 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. 3 U.S. soldiers died over the weekend in an attack on a U.S. Military base in Jordan. Thank you, Joe, and semi-conscience. Cute. So, yeah, I wanted to start with this story. It's not Ukraine. but it was an important story over the weekend, and it's going to have important regional implications. But an Iranian-backed terrorist group, really. We're still trying to figure out which one, although a group has claimed credit as a coalition of groups under Hezbollah, I believe, but kind of weird, depending. Thank you, Martin. But definitely Iranian tied. And they attacked. It was in Jordan, by the way, because a lot of folks, it was weird. So a lot of trolls this weekend. Thank you, Alex. A lot of trolls this weekend. Interesting story because, horrible story. U.S. base attacked with drones. 3 U.S. service members killed. Thank you, Tom. The 8 service members had to be medevaced out because they were so injured. They had to be medevaced to Germany. 34 overall injured U.S. service members, but that number could grow because traumatic brain injury from blasts and things can appear days later. Thank you, Sherry, Pedro, Succeed. Who we got? Elizabeth, Super Hornet, Martin. Thank you, guys. You're all going nuts today. I appreciate this. On the gifts, thank you so much. Chezak for the rose. Alex for the superpower. Taylor, Marcy. I think I got you all. Thank you, guys. Scott, thank you. But yeah, really awful story. And, the question now is, what does this do to the U.S. presidents? Thank you, Frumple. And what does the U.S. do next? Biden is in a real sort of pickle on this one because once you kill American troops, you have to have a strong response. By the way, and I don't want to sort of get into the Israel stuff again, but this is something I think people who don't, I don't want to be rude about this, say, you don't do national foreign affairs, but thank you, Frankie. But Super Hornet and, I'm sorry, who else I got? Super Hornet and Ellie. But when you have an attack that kills your soldiers, thank you, Scott, you don't really have a choice but to respond pretty harshly. Politically, you have no choice. In Israel's case, of course, 1,200 dead, whole different story of magnitude. But honestly, U.S. on September 11th, same thing. That does not mean that the choice you make is going to be a good one because it's going to be based, I would say it's more than just vengeance. It's based on politics in a way, but I don't mean politics in a bad way. I don't mean politics as in, I'm thinking of the politics and how I respond. I don't mean that. What I mean is, in a democracy especially, when you are brutally attacked, you have to respond or your people are going to be outraged. Thank you, Eva and Nicholas. People will be outraged and you don't have a choice. And thank you, Scott, as well. So that Biden has to do something significant in response. Israel had to do something significant in response. The U.S. on September 11th had to do something significant in response. Thank you, Jane. But like in retrospect, it's not clear what the U.S. did was the right thing, right? Iraq was a whole other story. That was ridiculous. But I'm talking even Afghanistan, right? So it puts political leaders in a very, Iran, I think, kind of stepped in it on this one because it puts Biden in a horrible position that he has no choice but to blow something big up. That's the problem. Iran is already backing away. They already put out a statement saying, we had nothing to do with it, kind of. And the thinking is that Iran is just that. They're trying to kind of back away and go, this is getting a little out of control. Let's see what happens. The U.S. does not want to get into a shooting war with Iran, but, there's really no choice at this point. There's no choice but for the U.S. to do something significant. Now, the big question for Biden, and then we'll move on with the Ukraine news. The big question for Biden, thank you, Adventures, is, and Don for the roses, by the way, do you go after Iran or do you go after just Iran's surrogates, the terrorist groups affiliated with Iran that Iran is funding and getting weapons to? Those would be the groups in Iraq and Syria. You can go after the groups in Iraq and Syria, but it's better be big because people want you to go after Iran is the problem. But if you go after Iran, then does Iran go, okay, we're going to blow something else up? We're going to go after American ships or something directly. You don't want to get into a shooting war with Iran, but you also don't want to stand down when you're being attacked because that will simply invite more attacks. So anyway, Biden's in a really weird position here. He's in a real weird position. So we'll see what happens. Let's go to Ukraine news. So Ukraine. Zaluzhny, the defense minister, not defense minister, excuse me, the general, the Ukraine's top general, who is also the guy in charge of the war, may or may not have been fired in Ukraine today by Zelensky. Story came out from several journalists, including The Economist's defense guy. The Economist, very good publication out of Britain. Thank you, Arifa. I used to write for them, among others. And their top defense guy says he was briefed by Ukrainian government officials who told him Zelensky fired him. Wow, LWD. Oh my God, thank you. Oh, that's an insane gift. Wow, thank you so much for that. I've never seen that one before, and I can tell it's because it's very, not that you all don't get me nice gifts, but that was insane. Thank you for that. Wow. Wow. Just wow. Thank you so much for that. Wow. You also, I think it's also fun for everybody else too. I mean, I thank you for them, but I thank you for me as well. Thank you, Big John. Appreciate it. You guys are being very nice today. I really appreciate it. Oh, D Lyle, it was so cool. It's one we've never seen before. It's really cool. Thank you, Anastasia. So Zaluzhny. So thanks, Scott. So The Economist, thank you, Ash and Mustard. The Economist defense guy reports today that Ukrainian officials contacted him and said Zelensky fired the top general in charge of the war. I guarantee you, thank you, Larissa, if he's reporting that, that is what happened. And what I mean by what happened, thank you, Mustard, what I mean by what happened is that does not mean Zelensky fired the general. It means Ukrainian officials absolutely positively told The Economist today that Zelensky fired the general. Do you get the difference? I don't know if Zelensky fired the general. I know that Ukrainian officials absolutely positively told the press that. And a lot of the Ukraine supporters on Twitter have been getting all pissed. LWD, you are insane today. That's another one I don't recall seeing. Thank you so much. Thank you. A lot of the Ukraine supporters have been getting really pissed. Yeah, that was for D. Lyle, exactly. You got to see it finally. We're getting really pissed at The Economist guy today, accusing him of being a hack and all this kind of stuff, and he should be fired. He got the story right. Ukrainian officials made news. Thank you, Ava and Vicky. Ukrainian officials made news by contacting the press and saying Zelensky fired the top general in charge of the war. Now, correct. Kelly says the Office of the President says he didn't. The Ministry of Defense says he didn't. Something weird is going on in Ukraine's government that people are telling the press that Zelensky fired this guy. Thank you, user 128. So I don't know what's going on. Thank you, Norway Fox. It is not The Economist's fault. So people need to, I mean, you're not doing it, but the people on Twitter were being ridiculous. It's not The Economist's fault, but there is some very weird intrigue going on. Very weird intrigue going on. Thank you, little Irish fella, and Lori. Some very, very weird. Yeah, Jillian, the only thing, Jillian O'Neill says the original report is from TASS, but that's not where The Economist got it from. The Economist talked to Ukrainian government officials. And other journalists also got the same report. They also got the same report. So, let's see. In any case, we have no idea what's going on. I'm just telling you, there's something else weird going on here. All right, let's go talk about the Russian, European. By the way, how's the sound going for TikTokers? I noticed somebody say they didn't like it. Or not, they didn't like it. They were having an issue. Thank you, James. Making sure for everybody else it's okay. Because if it's okay for everybody else, then what you need to do is probably exit and come back. Okay, it's okay for everybody else. Yeah. Oh, did it just glitch? Okay, it glitched for somebody else, though. Generally speaking, though, come out and come back, and that can often fix it on any of the systems, whether it's YouTube or TikTok. That can sometimes help. So, all right. So, Russian assets. There's actually a decent amount of good news today. The European Union has reached a tentative deal on giving Russian assets to Ukraine. Thank you, MC. Now, what they're looking at doing, but it looks like they got Hungary on board, which is shocking because European Union, everybody has to agree when they do stuff. I mean, I'm not the expert on the EU, but I know I've learned over the last 2 years, the EU, they've always got to be unanimous when they do stuff, right? So in order to distribute Russian assets to the Ukrainians, everyone has to agree. And the Hungarians are terrible about it. Well, according to the Financial Times, the deal they worked out is a deal that we had sort of suspected they were going to try to do. Thank you, Agris. There are, I've got the exact number here. I'll give you euros and pounds. There's 260 billion euros or 282 billion with a B dollars of Russian foreign assets frozen since Russia's invasion. Okay, so almost $300 billion, 260 billion euros. Of that, the Europeans control around 191 billion euros or $207 billion. So the euro and the dollar is pretty close, just to estimate, consider it the same. Rather than give all the money to the Ukrainians, which is questionable legally, because legally you'd literally be, I mean, we live in a nation of laws, even though obviously all of us would love to take Russia's money. I mean, just to be obnoxious, right? But we're a nation of laws. The government cannot just, I mean, I know this American law, the government cannot just take money away. They can't take property away from a private citizen or a private government that in essence, legally is like a citizen in this case, right? They have to have some legal justification. Because face it, in a democracy, governments can't just take your property with no reason. That would be dictatorship, right? I mean, Callum says that they can in Britain technically. Okay, in America they can't. So what the Europeans did to get around this is they are going to take the interest from the money. Now, we said $280 billion or $207 billion of that the Europeans control. Over a 2-year period, $207 billion raises a lot of interest, okay? It raises a lot of interest money. So they're talking about taking the interest money and giving it to Ukraine. I don't know how much goes to Ukraine, how much of it goes for legal fees. They said all sorts of stuff. But that's the deal. Apparently, it was signed off on by, and by the way, some of the money, I mean, they're talking billions of dollars. It was signed off on, again, by all the European ambassadors. The details still need to be worked out, but this is really good. Yeah, this is really good. Yeah, Gunnerman saying 5% of that is decent. Yeah, I mean, 5% of 200 billion would be $10 billion, right? Yeah, $10 billion. And that's about the amount I think they're talking about. I remember it being 8 to 10 billion, something like that in my head is what I'm remembering. So that would be really cool. Now, why didn't Hungary sabotage this, or why aren't they? Hungary, you'll recall, big PITA. Hungary, big friend of Putin. I should say prime minister, Orban, huge friend of Putin, kind of a wannabe dictator, kind of a wannabe Soviet, to be honest, and hates Ukraine. Well, there's a story in the Financial Times, big British financial paper, very good paper, a couple days ago that the European Union got together and worked out a plan to sabotage Hungary's economy if they kept screwing around with aid to Ukraine. Because Hungary also vetoed further aid to Ukraine that they're trying to work out. They've got another 50 billion euros, which is, again, around the same in dollars, $55 billion or so, of aid to Ukraine the Europeans are trying to provide because the U.S. has cut them off, especially really important. And Hungary kept saying no and putting all these conditions on. Well, listen to this. I'm just going to read you some of this from the Financial Times because it's kind of hilarious. I mean, the Europeans basically just like went to the Hungarians, and it's kind of beautiful. Listen to this. This is from Financial Times. The European Union will sabotage Hungary's economy if Budapest blocks fresh aid to Ukraine at a summit this week. Under a confidential plan drawn up by Brussels that marks a significant escalation in the battle between the European Union and its most pro-Russian member state. In a document drawn up by EU officials and seen by the Financial Times, Brussels meaning the European Union, has outlined a strategy to explicitly target Hungary's economic weaknesses, imperil its currency, and drive a collapse in investor confidence in a bid to hurt jobs and growth if Budapest refuses to lift its veto against aid to Kyiv. Viktor Orban, Hungary's premier, has vowed to block the use of the European Union budget to provide 50 billion euros in financial aid to Ukraine at an emergency summit of leaders this Thursday. Thank you, John. If he does not back down, other European Union leaders should publicly vow to permanently shut off all EU funding to Budapest with the intention of spooking the markets, precipitating a run on the country's foreign currency and a surge in the cost of its borrowing. Quote from Europe's director at Eurasia Group. Quote, "This is Europe telling Viktor Orban enough is enough. It's time to get in line. You may have a pistol, but we have the bazooka." I mean, let me just say, bravo, Europe. Bra frickin' yo. I mean, now what I'm reading there, by the way, what I'm reading between the lines is the idea, because somebody had written on Twitter, a guy who's a European analyst in New York, and he said, I'd like to know more about this, because how are they going to get unanimous agreement among Europeans, because, to do this, because especially Slovakia won't come on. That's not what the story says. The story doesn't say that this is what's brilliant about it. The story doesn't say the European Union is going to cut off money to Hungary. The story says European leaders will go public and call for money to be cut off to Hungary. And the reason is, as it says, listen to this. Let me read this again. European leaders should publicly vow to permanently shut off all EU funding to Budapest with the intention of spooking the markets. They want to scare the financial markets, precipitating a run on the country's currency, a surge in the cost of borrowing. So they want to sabotage the economy by scaring the investors, basically. So you don't need everyone to come on board. Thank you, LWD. You don't need to actually do it. But if you have 20, how many European, I always forget, guys, it's not 27 or 28, is it? What's the number of countries in the EU? Is it 27, I think? You European, or you other experts out there? I'm going to say it's around 27 or so. I should be within one or two. I feel like the price is right here. Just curious, what have I got here? 27? Was I right with 27? Yes. I know I could ask Alexa. You're right about that, but she'd probably give me a crazy answer. It is, you see, Mustard the American knew too. So if you get like 25 European heads of state coming out and saying, we're going to cut off Hungary completely and destroy its economy, that's going to freak the hell out of investors. Because they're going to say, well, yeah, maybe Slovakia is probably not going to allow it, but Jesus, I don't want my investments there just in case. It's a brilliant strategy. It's a brilliant strategy, because it takes advantage of the fact that everyone may not agree, and you don't need everyone to basically. It's a bluff in essence, but it's a bluff that investors. Anyway, I just think it's hilarious. Thank you, James. Now, at the same time, this story comes out. Hungary says, we will not be bullied. Hungary is now totally on board. Suddenly, Hungary is totally on board with the Russian interest from the Russian investments that are frozen. Totally on board giving that to Ukraine, right? And Hungary is now reportedly on board. Suddenly today, Orban came out and said, oh, it's fine, with the 50 billion that they're going to agree to on Thursday. The 50 billion in other aid for Ukraine. Suddenly, Orban is now on board, the Hungarian wannabe dictator. So the EU showed some backbone. I mean, really amazing, just really amazing. I'm very proud of you guys. Like it is. Somebody said mafia. It is a little mafia. It's really like, damn. I will say this, the one interesting thing, which we'll look back, and history is interesting because you don't really appreciate history as it's being made. I mean, I was sort of thinking of this because I got to sit on the floor of the U.S. Senate. I was working for the senator from Alaska as his foreign policy guy. And thank you, Kronos. I got to sit on the floor of the United States Senate when the Senate was voting basically to go to war against Iraq, but back the good war, the 1991 war. Okay, so this was the invasion of Iraq to rescue Kuwait. Thank you, LWD. And I remember how strange it was sitting on the floor of the U.S. Senate. The floor meaning where all the senators come and they talk on TV, right, and they vote. How strange it was because it was a historic moment, the first Gulf War. It was a historic moment, but because you're there, it seems like every other day. Like we were voting on something historic, but it was a normal day of going with my boss to the Senate floor. You know what I mean? You don't appreciate history until you sort of look back on moments as being historic moments. Anyway, why was I bringing this up? I know what I was going to say. Thank you, Fred. And thank you, LWD. I bring this up because I wonder, as a silver lining to all of the chaos of late, the chaos of Orban, Slovakia now being a pain in the butt too, and Donald Trump and the Republicans threatening Europe, threatening to stop funding Ukraine. I mean, they have stopped funding Ukraine, but threatening to pull out of NATO. Trump says he's going to pull out of NATO. Trump says he will not come to Europe's defense if Russia invades, a breach of, 75 years of American promises. I wonder if as a result of this, Europe might be able to come out stronger. I mean, it scares me because it's also a great way to start war with Russia, and to get Russia to invade is for America to say, we're not going to help if you invade. That's a great way to call it. It is a great way, by the way, Taylor's saying, it's a great way to, thank you, Arifa, it's a great way to get China to invade Taiwan as well, is to talk like this. We don't want to go to war, right? Great way to cause wars, to say you don't want war is a great way to cause wars. But I wonder if Europe can come out stronger of this and basically have to become its own fighting machine, its own NATO without the U.S., whether or not NATO survives and whether or not the U.S. survives as part of NATO. Europe is going to have to create its own defense now, because you can't count on us. You can count on Democrats mostly. You can't count on Republicans at all now. Now that they're MAGA Republicans, you can't. I will tell you right now, there is no way to believe that America will come to your defense. Thank you, Joe. If Donald Trump is president, he may get forced into it, but the lies these guys tell, I think, thank you, Robert, I think he'd have the American people, the majority on his side, because he would just lie to them and say, yeah, the Europeans, they're all NZs. Let's just not defend them, But it may end up making you guys stronger. You may end up becoming your own defense powerhouse. And the same thing happening with Hungary. Hungary has been such a pain in the butt that it actually forced the European Union to get some backbone. I mean, some backbone meaning some really nasty backbone to use against recalcitrant members, which is very interesting. So let's see. Ukrainian drone allegedly attempted to attack one of the largest oil refineries in Russia, in Yaroslavl. The region's governor claimed. Interesting, though, at the same time, the Russian government is now talking about restricting airspace over energy facilities. Which is, I read, there was a separate story, but I read it and I went, they're talking about restricting airspace over energy facilities because the Ukrainians have freaked them out with all of these attacks on oil and natural gas facilities. Because the Russians, as you know, for the last 2 winters have tried to just destroy all of Ukraine's energy production. They're trying to put Ukraine in the deep freeze, basically freeze everybody to death over the winter, right? Zelensky promised going into the winter that, hey, mods, you got somebody to, over on YouTube, mods, aisle 1, you'll see who it is. Aisle 1, take him out. That's our code for we have a troll who needs to be knocked off. My Nia Vardalos screaming goat. She turned me on to this. She's not my real buddy. She's my Twitter buddy. We became chatty on Twitter. She's the Greek Canadian. I want to say Greek American, Greek Canadian, but maybe American too. We'd like to claim her, who did my big fat Greek wedding. But she was playing with this once in a video, and I said, where did you get it? She goes, oh my God, they're on Amazon. So we had a really nice talk during COVID. Thank you, Running. Thank you. Who's at Beaches? Thank you. So, yeah, anyway, so very interesting. So the Ukrainians turned around with the Russians attacking all of their energy. And this year, very much Greek. Yeah, Greek Canadian. Yep. Very much, the Ukrainians turned around and said, if you attack our energy this year, we're attacking yours. And the Ukrainians have been attacking the Russian energy production pretty hard. Now, going after the Russians is interesting because it's not to freeze the Russians. It's to kill Russian energy exports. 40% of Russia's federal budget, I mean, literally the federal government's budget in Russia, Putin's budget, 40% of it comes from energy, from Russia's energy sales. Huge amount of money. So Ukraine is basically going after the money that Russia needs for its economy, but also more directly that Russia needs for its war effort. But also Vlad mentioned something this weekend. We did our Saturday show for the monthly subscribers, And Vlad said that he believes it's even more directly that Ukraine is trying to take out oil facilities so that Russia has less oil to literally give its military. So there isn't fuel for the tanks, and there isn't fuel for the vehicles and the planes and everything else, which I thought was interesting. Jillian says there's another troll over there on YouTube. Oh, Amanda, you're over there. Yep. Oh, you got them already? Okay. Thank you. Oh, there's another one. Okay. Amanda says they're gone. Thanks, guys. I like how it shows the little wrench next, at least for me, it shows the little wrench next to your name on YouTube, like you're the engineer fix-it person. It's very cute. Oh, thank you. That's right, Chris. I forgot I gave you guys have the angel emoji. That's right. I forgot about that. Okay, in any case. So very interesting. Ukraine's going after that. British Ministry of Defense had an assessment of Russia's ability to replace new tanks. That was not good. Not good for Ukraine. So basically, let me read you this. What they concluded was Russia has the resources to keep replacing tanks and combat vehicles. Basically, Russia's been losing, since October, they've lost 365 tanks and 700 armored personnel carriers. So vehicles that carry troops around, but can also fire and stuff. The problem is Russia is able to generate 100 tanks a month. So if since October they've lost 365, that's been 4 months. So in those 4 months, they've lost 365, but they've been able to make 400 new tanks. So they're able to keep going at the rate they're going. They're not getting slowed down. Now, the only bit of good news from that is Russia is not on the offensive right now, not that much. It's not like where they were, a year and a half ago, whenever it was. So it's not like Russia's expected to get a lot of land back from Ukraine, or not back, but take a lot of land from Ukraine. But they can keep fighting at the current intensity indefinitely because they're producing enough. That's bad. At least as far as tanks goes. At least as far as tanks go. Reuters in India. So this is good news too. So this is because of the sanctions and everything. India is starting to distance itself from Russia in terms of its arms purchases. Now, this was from Reuters. I'll read you a little bit. This was a really good story. So India is seeking to distance itself from its largest arms supplier after Russia's ability to supply munitions and spares was hobbled by the war in Ukraine, but must step carefully to avoid pushing Moscow closer to China, Indian sources said. The world's biggest arms importer is which I didn't realize India is the world's biggest arms importer, which is kind of wild. Is slowly turning west as the United States looks to strengthen ties in the Indo-Pacific region, hoping to contain an ascendant China by weaning the South Asian nation off a traditional dependence on Russia. Russia supplied 65% of India's weapons purchases of more than $60 billion during the last 2 decades. But the Ukraine war has hastened the impetus to diversify its weapons base. Well, they don't tell you. The reason is, thank you, LRN, for sharing the live. The reason is that the Indians have not been able to pay. Their banks. I just did a story on this the other day, actually. Their banks have not been able to figure out how to basically figure out payment with Russian banks because of the sanctions. And the Russians want payment in, maybe rubles or other kind of, the Russians want payment in other kind of crazy currencies that the Indians are going, no. So the sanctions are actually creating a real problem for Russia in terms of selling stuff, but for India in terms of buying it from Russia, which is very interesting too. BBC, Ukraine. Oh, this is not a good story. I will put a caveat here on this story. This is a small amount of money, which is good. Still a bad story, but in terms of $100 billion Ukraine got, it's a small amount. But BBC, Ukraine Security Services says it has uncovered corruption in an arms purchase by the military worth about $40 million or 31 million pounds. The security services say 5 senior people in the defense ministry and an arms supplier were being investigated for defense contracts signed for 100,000 mortar shells in August of 2022. The payment was made in advance and the shells were never provided. Now, the good thing is that somebody said they got it back. The Breeze, did they get it back? I did not see that in the stories, actually. I hope that's true, but I did not see that in the stories. The good news is $40 million is a lot of money, but it's actually not a lot of money when you're talking $100 billion. right? It is a small percentage of 100 billion. Nonetheless, doesn't make me very happy, right? It's not good. But I'm not, I will say this, I'm not, let me see here, 40 million, let me just look here. I should be able to do this off the top of my head, but nonetheless, I'll use my little times 100. Oh, shoot. What was I trying to, I know what I was doing. Hold on. 40 million divided by 100 billion times 100. It's 0.04%. That's 0.04% of the money. Now, again, no money do I want stolen, but 0.04% of the total money they've been given, that's damn good. Also, think of how much money is stolen by the Russian government, okay? Think of how much is stolen in the Chinese government. We recently found out that the Chinese were putting water in their, water in their missiles or something? Because the people that were in charge of doing it, I think they'd sold the fuel. So, and the corruption in the Russian government, forget it. I mean, half their stuff doesn't even work practically because they just steal all the money. There is corruption. There is always going to be corruption. The good thing is they caught it. The good thing is they're prosecuting it, which is great. Couple different people are saying the money was recovered, which is great. But, I will also say this. Even if Ukraine has a corruption problem, and I don't think they've got a huge one, they have a corruption problem, like a lot of countries in the East, frankly, do. But even if Ukraine has a corruption problem, that doesn't change the analysis of America's national interest and Europe's national interest, right? I don't actually care. I care. I don't want the money stolen, and I want the Ukrainians going after it. But as a policymaker, as a leader of a country, if I'm trying to decide whether we need to stop Russia because Russia taking over Ukraine will lead to war in Europe, why do I care if there is some corruption in Ukraine? And what I mean is not why do I care? I care because I don't want the money being stolen. But why will I let that influence my decision on whether to support Ukraine or not? If I think Ukraine losing the war will lead Russia to go to war in Europe, then it doesn't matter. The amount of Ukrainian corruption or any Ukrainian corruption does not change my geopolitical analysis of the danger Russia poses to Europe and to my country. Right? The Soviet Union was a danger to America. Russia is a danger to America. It doesn't matter if Ukraine has some corruption. Russia is still dangerous to America, and I'm going to help stop Russia because it poses a danger to my country and my country's national security. Thank you, Jen. Do you get what I'm going at? That does not mean we don't care about corruption. It doesn't mean we don't keep pressuring Ukraine to fix corruption, which it is, and which this proves it is. But it also means it has zero to do with your decision of whether to support Ukraine or not, because you need to do that based on national security interests and whether it is in the interest of your country to stop Russia or not. Simple. So just wanted to mention that because it's an important point that I think the trolls, the bad people bring, the people who already hate Ukraine and love Russia love to bring this up. Ukraine's very corrupt. We shouldn't help them. And it's like, well, Russia's actually more corrupt if you look at the international lists of corruption, which you can Google, by the way. Any of you Google right now, Google International Corruption Index, and you will see Russia way below Ukraine on the list. But also, it just doesn't matter. And like Jetta said, we helped the USSR during World War II defeat Germany, and the Soviet Union, worst freaking place on the planet other than North Korea. Really. I mean, there wasn't anybody worse, I think, at that point than North Korea, than the Soviet Union. Really, really. I mean, there were some dictators. But in a grand scheme, we helped the freaking Russians, the Soviets, a communist dictatorship, win World War II because it was in our national interest to stop the Nazis. So, if we could help the Russians and the Soviets, I think we can help the Ukrainians. Actually, that's a great argument. That's a great argument. You're right. We help the Russians, and according to the study, they're more corrupt than the Ukrainians. That's a brilliant argument, actually. The ends justify the means. That's not even relevant. That's not even element. We're talking about national. I mean, I know you're a troll, but it's important for folks to understand this. We're talking about national security. We make decisions based on war. We make decisions based on supporting countries, creating allies, not defending allies, based on the survival of our country and the national interest of our country and how it affects our survival. That's how you That's how you make decisions on war, folks. That's how you make decisions on war. So, yeah, ends justify the means? No, the conclusion justifies the means. Like, if it is important to stop Russia because Russia will go to war with us and Russia will go to war with Europe, then yeah. He's a troll anyway. He's a troll. In any case, by the way. All right, Liv. That was for TikTok. Thanks, Liv. All right. The wife of British-Russian dissident Vladimir Kara-Murza. This guy is very famous, actually. A famous British dissident, Russian, but a British dual national. He was put into a Russian penal colony, 25 years in jail for treason and spreading false information about the war in Ukraine. Right. This is what the Russians do. Putin literally throws his political opponents in jail, and they do it. My favorite is the reason they do it. They've got a law in Russia that you can't criticize the military. Now, what I love about it is they think that's normal. And this is sort of typical of dictatorships. They do stuff that they think is normal, and they don't realize, or as Drainwake says, throw you out a window. Quite literally, they throw their political opponents off of balconies. Literally, they've had a spate of these where they've thrown these guys out windows and off of balconies to their death. And it's always at hotels. They fell. This kind of crap. They throw you in jail, and they do it literally. A lot of this, like this guy, you criticize the military by saying that this war is wrong. You shouldn't be invading these guys. That's all you have to say to go to jail in Russia for years. In America, in Europe, you can say that. You can always say that. I mean, you will not go to jail for that. But in Russia, you will, because they're a dictatorship. By the way, I'm a little suspicious of we'll talk mods. We'll talk afterwards. Yeah, the reason my cup is small is because it's an espresso. If it was a bigger cup, I'd be flying out the window right now on my coffee. So I'm trying to have a more moderate cup here. Very nice. A few more stories. This is the last story, actually. So I wonder, just because it's Russia related and it's Russian corruption related, the mods are doing great. Thanks, mods. Thanks, Jin, for noticing that. A famous Russian figure skater. Remember the one that got into trouble for doping during the 2022 Winter Olympics? I think it was in Paris. It might have been in Paris. And she got into trouble because she took some heart medicine that can apparently give you more stamina. She just got a 4-year ban from the sport. They're lifting it just in time for her to go to the next Olympics. But what gets interesting now, the Swiss Court of Arbitration for Sports or whatever, that, thank you, Jackie, that made the decision said that she basically did do illegal drugs during the last Olympics, and she's guilty. But they can't take her medal away because that wasn't in their power. It wasn't in their jurisdiction. That it has to go to a different sports body to now decide what happens to the prize. Right? Thank you, Pizditz. Now, what happened was the Russian team she was on got first place. There wasn't a medal ceremony because the Olympics didn't know what to do because she was caught using illegal drugs. I say illegal drugs meaning illegal stimulants, right? But what happened was the U.S. was second place. So in essence, the U.S. actually got the gold now. Canada's here too. Japan got third place. So Japan actually would have gotten second, which is the silver. And Canada, thank you, Timothy, Canada got fourth. So they didn't get anything. But guess what? This means Canada actually got third, and Canada gets a medal too. They got a bronze. I know, Canada. But this other sports body, the International Skating Union, has to weigh in to throw out the Russian medal. And they have to. They have to. One of the people. Now, my favorite part of this was she was on a drug. She tested positive for a drug called trimetazidine. Trimetazidine? Something like that. A heart medicine that can boost stamina. And she claimed, do you remember this? She claimed she accidentally took the medication prescribed for her grandfather. And I loved that story because I'm like, I don't know anybody who's accidentally taken somebody else's medication. How does that work? You know what I mean? Like, you accidentally took your grandfather's medication? Like, first of all, what medication were you taking at age 15? She's 15 years old, right? She's 15 years old. I mean, what medication was she taking, right? And where was it? In a vial next to her grandfather's medication? I mean, come on. Give me a break. But I love that. Oh, it was my grandfather's. I took it by accident. Sure you did. Yeah, I was just going to say, Chazak just a Viagra. That's what I was going to say. Did you take that too? Anyway, so let's see what happens to her. Anyway, okay, that's it for the news. Let's open the show up to questions and comments. Also, we do have new auction items. I will get the other auction items sent off. By popular demand, I do have another. This is actually a very good condition challenge coin. This is a nice one. This challenge coin is the Russian warship Go F Yourself one, just in the gold color, but you can see the Ukrainian soldier giving the middle finger to the Russian ship, the Moskva, that sank. Oops, sorry, you guys can see there. There you go, you guys can see there. And this is the famous ship that the first day of the war, thank you, adventurers. The first day of the war, the Russians tried to take over Snake Island, this island off of Ukraine, or part of Ukraine, but off of the coast, and told them, we will blow you up, right? We will blow you up if you don't surrender. And they said, this is Russian warship, surrender or we blow you up. And the Ukrainians responded, and it was recorded, we all heard it, was Russian warship, go F yourself. In Ukrainian, except they didn't say F, they said the word in Ukrainian. Super famous. Well, 6 weeks later, the Ukrainians blew up the Russian ship and sank it, and it was the top Russian ship. I mean, so beautiful, just everything about the Ukrainians with this. So this coin is commemorating that. It's the ship showing a Ukrainian soldier giving it the finger. But what's neat about that is actually a stamp. The picture is based on a Ukrainian stamp that they did showing them giving the finger. So that's one. Another one, this is a nice piece. This is from an Su-34 that was shot down near Kharkiv. The plane was a Russian fighter bomber. It's a nice piece, actually. It's a good-sized piece, 12 inches. It's nice because it's got some coloring on it. It's got the yellow coloring, kind of the yellow-green coloring that the Russian planes have. It's just a nice, I like it too because it looks cool, like it's a nice piece, like you could put it in something or on the wall. But it's from an Su-34 that was found near Kharkiv, Ukraine, on December 3rd of 2022, but they don't quite know when it was shot down. But we've got the video actually showing them when they found the plane, which is kind of cool. And it's the wreckage and everything else. Anyway, we're auctioning this off as well. The auctions, by the way, are over on Discord. And they are to benefit Ukraine and to benefit me. Because the auctions, 50% of the money, 50% we send back to Ukraine for our charity work we do for the military and for private charities. And 50% goes just to help me pay the bills because I do this full time. So I'm trying to find ways to pay the bills, and that's part of the way. The other stuff, I'm looking here. I'll show you one more little thing, and then we're done. I'll show you more during the week. I am putting, it looks like a paddle. This is the decorative cutting board from the artist in Ukraine. We've got her name and where she's from and stuff, but it's the Petrikivka style, which is a beautiful old Ukrainian style. I think it celebrates spring. I've got it in the description on the Discord with the bright colors, but it's very pretty. Not to be used for food, of course, because, it's artwork, but very pretty. So we've got a number of other things, a bracelet, cool Ukrainian military patch, actually, that says Ukrainian Armed Forces. This is kind of neat. It's a very pretty, I like it because it's a particularly pretty patch, actually. You know what I mean? It's particularly bright, which I think is neat. Anyway, lots of stuff. Another Zelensky sweatshirt. We only have 3 more Zelensky sweatshirts, size medium, so go check. Anyway, go check them all out on Discord, discord.aravosis.com. All right, so let's talk. What do you think Biden will do as a result of Jordan? We were talking about this at the beginning. Thank you, C3. I don't know. Biden's instinct is going to be to not do anything big. He's going to have to, Mark is saying nothing. He's going to have to do something. Because they killed U.S. soldiers, he's got to do something. His instinct is going to be to do something small because he doesn't want war with Iran. He fears escalation. It's only a medium. Yeah, Max, those are the only ones we have left are the mediums. And it's a true U.S. medium, unfortunately. I mean, not unfortunately, but it's a true U.S. medium. Yeah. Like for me, it's okay, but a little tight because I'm a medium large. So that's the problem for Biden with the Iranian-backed group killing the U.S. troops this weekend. He's got to hit them hard, but Biden's instinct is not to escalate. So it ends up being this weird, I don't think he's going to hit Iran directly. I also don't think he's got much of a choice. I think what's actually going on right now, the U.S. is doing all it can right now to really, really, really figure out exactly who did it. It was a coalition of, and thank you, Harvey. Oh, Harvey, good to see you again. It was a coalition of basically terrorist groups backed by Iran that claimed credit. But I think, the U.S. is still trying to find a smoking gun we know Iran had a hand in this. We know Iran probably knew about the attack, but I think we want to know for sure that Iran knew about the attack and approved it. And we're probably scouring the intelligence. We've got the Brits doing the same, probably the Germans and others, to see what we can get on Iran. That's my guess. Harvey, Ash says, tell Harvey the TikTok mods say hello. Good to see you, Harvey. And thank you for the gift. I hope you've been well. Harvey may be working now. I assume you're working because you were sort of finishing up school when we were talking last. Actually, probably easier without this. Thoughts on General Sir Patrick Sanders, Chief of the General Staff for the British Army. Thank you, by the way. Harvey used to put questions up and not tell me the background, so I'd be like, who is that? Or flags that I don't know. General Sir Patrick Sanders, Chief of the General Staff for the British Army, suggesting national service should be reintroduced due to growing world tension, also endorsed by the former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson. It kind of depends. I will not claim to be an expert on British military, and I say this because Callum and I were talking about this a few days ago, and he was telling me how this is sort of an ongoing thing with the British military, that they're always calling like for conscription, like to have a draft and stuff. And it's not really related to Russia. It's sort of this ongoing political thing in the UK. And whether it's also just to scare people into giving more money, I don't know, right? So I'm not sure what the story is there. Also, depends what you mean by national service, right? In the US, the phrase national service doesn't necessarily mean military, right? Was it Clinton that had national service? I think it was Clinton. It could be working for your country in some other way. It could be going into the inner city and working on poverty, or the rural America in our case, and working on poverty contracts. We're helping for poverty. Food, whatever it is, right? So there's lots of different ways. When you could help the government do stuff that isn't. It could be healthcare, helping people get vaccinated or something. It doesn't have to be. Okay, but Jeff says national service means a uniform. Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay, I was thinking it might be in the UK. Okay, so in the UK it means military. I don't know the military enough in your country, but like I said, I can only rely on Callum saying little bit of a political thing going on there at the same time. Sam Crow says, I disagree. For the most part, the UK services don't want a conscription or subscription. Liam says UK national service was 2 years compulsory military. When was that until, though? When was compulsory military? When did it end in Britain? Abolished in the 60s? That's interesting. 50s or 60s? 1960? Okay, that's a long time ago. Okay. That's a long time ago. I assume ours stopped after Vietnam. I'm pretty sure. I would say 73 probably, right? Or 75. When would that be? 75 maybe? But I don't think, I think ours just stopped then. We haven't had it. You have to register, so they've got you on file, but that's it. That's it. 75? That's what I thought, Jeff. Thanks. Okay. Roma, that's it. Oh, thanks, Roma. Let me see. Yeah, because we typically sort of have folks help us mail it and stuff, to make sure it doesn't get into trouble or, somebody steals it or whatever. Yeah. Okay. In any case, that's interesting, though. Yeah. I'm trying to see what other people are saying because you guys know Britain. Some of you, I think, know the British politics better than I do. Let me see here. Cappy says, I can't really imagine conscription to be reintroduced here. He's in Czech Republic. Sure, we increased volunteer reserve, but to reinstate conscription, that would be a step too far. We abolished it in 2005. That's interesting. Not that long ago, though, but 20 years. Fair enough. Oh, hey, Bree. Sorry. Good to see you back on YouTube. Who else we got here? Harvey says, national service was a system in the UK which continued until the 1960s where every male between 18 and 20 was required to do military service. I mean, it's an interesting question. It's an interesting question. You know? I mean, I guess it depends how big your army is. You know? I mean, we determined that our military is big enough. So our volunteer military is big enough. We don't need more people. Now, I did see, who was it, guys? Top British, was he I forget if he was the outgoing or the recently outgone head of the army in Britain, but one of the guys I saw, a British defense official, say that we don't need conscription. Putin saw just how well conscripted armies work. He said new conscripts are worthless, basically. I think what he means is like you get new people and you hand them guns. They're not very good at doing, I mean, they're masses of people, but they're not very good at doing anything. And so his point was, you know, Putin can see how effective they are. You know, they're getting killed, but that's about it. And didn't think that was really a solution to anything. I think, you know, clearly I would say, and I always say I'm a foreign policy guy, not a defense guy, but just from seeing what's been going on with Ukraine, Europe and America definitely need to increase their defense spending, or at least increase their defense base. Like in America, we already spend a ton on defense. You know, our defense budget is over $800 billion with a B. But the fact that we couldn't provide enough artillery shells for Ukraine is criminal. And it's not just criminal for Ukraine. How the hell would we fight a war with Russia and Europe if we can't provide Ukraine enough shells? And sure, we've got some shells ourselves to protect ourselves that we still got, but that's crazy, guys. That's absolutely crazy. We've got to be able to produce enough tanks and enough shells. We've got air forces, fair enough. We do have the air forces, that's true. That's true. But we can't run out of artillery, and we can't not have enough tanks. Because, well, the tank thing, we do know that, because we got rid of the tanks because war with Europe was no longer a problem, right? We need tanks. In any case, that's sort of the big issue, I think. Let me see here. Let me see. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Sorry. Callum, you need to tell me when you write stuff that I can repeat it. I assume this is something I can repeat. Sorry. Let me know. But I don't like repeating what people tell me. It's a political thing you learn. You don't repeat, and a journalism thing too. You don't just repeat what people tell you privately. It also makes for good friendships as well. Repeat. Okay, Callum wrote in Callum's former British military, national service has been a spoken about solution for many years in the UK, such as unemployment. Oh, I see. A solution for unemployment when unemployment was high, and the youth of today being little SHITs. All they said was if we were to go to war with Russia, they would likely introduce national service again. Well, we'd probably do the same thing if war with Russia broke out. Sure, that's different. You know. Okay, but would that be but correct me if I'm wrong here. I mean, Terry is saying, which is fair enough, our doctrine is based on air superiority. We would build untold numbers of weapons for planes. Artillery isn't our thing. Fair enough. But does that mean we don't need the artillery? I mean, that we don't need more? I mean, because we would just be doing air power? I'm just saying, like, you know, and the tanks too. Do we not need more tanks again? Or do we really think the air power would be sufficient? That's sort of my question here. Okay, no, I'm glad to hear it, though. Callum says air power beats artillery. Okay. Modern warfare tanks are obsolete. Tanks are handy, though. Air power? Okay. I hope that's true. You know? Drones. Well, drones are their own issue. Yeah, drones are their own issue, obviously. Well, see, Street Rat says there's no air power without ground power. I know General Hertling has been talking a lot about tanks and really he was an Army guy, head of U.S. Army in Europe. But I've seen him in the past often push back at people who say tanks are obsolete. Anyway, I hope so. I think at the very least, the Russian thing has shown us that we certainly seem to have some shortcomings in terms of our defense. And the question is, well, the other issue with air power is it's not helping us in Ukraine, right? What do we do with these hybrid wars, but meaning these wars that are not quite an attack on us, but are kind of an attack on us, like going after Ukraine. It's a war in Europe, and it clearly is meant to threaten the neighbors. Thank you, Jen. And it also puts the neighbors more at risk, but since it's not our war, we're not using our air power. So all of a sudden, what do you do? Liam says, I can't help thinking of The Simpsons where the aliens dominate the earth using a stick with a nail. Oh, I remember the aliens, but I don't remember the storyline. That's very funny. I just don't remember the story. I remember the big-headed thing, whatever they were. Thank you, Lamb Chop, for the paper crane, and Jen for the hearts. Please keep the gifts coming, guys, on TikTok. I appreciate them, and YouTube. Zelensky said today that Ukraine had 880,000 in national service plus 1 million soldiers. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's real, or maybe it is. Thank you, Masi. Deny air superiority to the Russians. Interesting. All right. What else, guys? Thank you, Sunshine. Thank you, Nick. I think so. Yeah. Sorry. Sword for Justice is asking, will the interest payments from Russian funds be retroactive back to when the war began? Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, 99% sure. Because this is the new European Union deal that they've agreed to, but now they've agreed to in principle that they're going to take the interest from Russian assets that were frozen in the West, frozen in Europe. And it's like $200 billion. Thank you, Timothy. And thank you, Sunshine. About $200 billion. And thank you, James. They're going to take the interest from that. And we were saying if the interest was only 5%, it could be $10 billion right now, right? I seem to remember the amount of money being in that range, 8 to 10 billion, something like that. And give the interest to Ukraine on the money. So it wouldn't be the money itself, but it would be the interest accrued and accruing. Now, it would go back to the beginning, sure, because that money's there. Russia hasn't gotten any of the money. Russia has not been able to get the interest either. So yeah, the reason they've got like 8 to 10 billion as the figure, I think, is because it is the amount of interest to date. Yeah. It's got to be the question. Yeah. Kang and Kadosi. I remember Kang. That's what I remember. Bree says, I know now I wish I could show you. I can't show it because TikTok would be okay with it. YouTube would freak out if I showed The Simpsons. Actually, I can probably show the picture. I can show the picture though. Hold on, Kang and Kadosi. I'll Google the picture. That I can show. But TikTok, YouTube video would absolutely freak out. Hang on. Kang. There they are. Or Kodos. Oh, Kodos. That's it. Kang and Kodos. Hang on. I'm trying to find like a good... Well, all the pictures are the same. Oops. Where is this? Hello. Well, here you go. The Simpsons wiki. It's these guys, remember? And they're in the big glass container to protect them from Earth's atmosphere. There, you guys can see there. That's Kang and Kodos. Very funny. Oh, now I've got to Google it and see if I can find that. I haven't watched The Simpsons in so long. I've always loved the Simpsons. Do you think American and European companies will go back to Russia after the war? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Anything for a fast buck. I think they will. Unfortunately, but I think they will. Ash says no. Okay. I hope not, Ash. But I think eventually they will. Just depends if they think they can make money. Yeah. Which is their point of existence. They do exist to make money, but yeah, Simpsons is on Disney Plus. I've got Disney Plus. Is it really? I do have Disney Plus. Yes. I don't pay for Disney Plus, but I get it as a free package with my my cell phone. I got Disney and Hulu were given to me with it. I was like, okay, why not? What else we got here? Sorry, just seeing if there's anything else here. The estimate could be about $3 billion per year. Oh, on the Russian interest. That's good. That's good. Lisa asked for peace in the world. That's funny. That's funny. Who used your cell phone carrier? Or what? I don't know what that means. Oh, who is? I don't want to say because of creepy people, but one of the major cell phone carriers in America. The deal when I bought the new iPhone, it changed somehow my plan changed. I don't know why, and the new plan it was like more, but they gave you not that actually it wasn't that much more, but I got free Hulu with ads, so I pay a little extra to get no ads, and free Disney Plus, which was nice. So I was like, okay. I mean, it's a small deal, but I still don't feel like telling people what companies they can call them. It used to be a thing. People would go and like steal your. I think they still do steal your phone and stuff. I saw that, Ashleen, but it's a story. It's not clear America was doing it. The U.S. maybe. First of all, it was a story in the. I still don't trust the Telegraph. I know Kellum said they're okay, but the U.S. moving some nukes to Europe. I don't really care. Britain's got nukes already. Who cares if you've got some more? It's the same difference. You've already got nuclear weapons. So what? But the U.S. kind of has to because Russia did it. And we've got to teach Russia a lesson and say, okay, you're going to move nuclear weapons into Belarus, closer to Europe, then we're going to move more nuclear weapons into Western Europe. So, yeah. But it doesn't change anything in terms of the safety or anything else. You've already got, Darren says you've already hosted them before, but also you've already got nuclear weapons. A few more changes nothing. It teaches the Russians a lesson, though. It's more it's not going to make a difference strategically, but I think it makes a difference in, to Russia. Right. And they're in your subs anyway. It's posturing, but it's good posturing because it shows the Russians, okay, tit for tat. You do it, we're going to do it back to you. What else? Correct, Jason E. What else, guys? I don't know what's 1962. Oh, you're saying Cuban Missile Crisis. Sure, but that doesn't mean you don't stand up to bullies. Actually, the lesson of the Cuban Missile Crisis was you do stand up to bullies, I would say. But nonetheless, not every crisis is the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's like the Iran thing too. The trolls, at least, thank you, Shane, are like, oh, we shouldn't do anything. We should just leave. Well, sure, if you want to teach terrorists a lesson to attack the U.S. and to attack other countries and kill our troops, leave. That's the best way to teach them to keep killing our troops. Absolutely. Best way to do it. Copies, it reminds them, but my point is it's not really changing Britain's ability to defend itself or attack Russia. That's sort of my point. But I say posturing, but it still is. But yes, it's teaching them, okay, F around, find out, basically. Thank you, Flawless, for the galaxy. Very nice. You get hit, you hit back. You have to. Or you get hit harder. No, I think, ironically, Reagan was right on some of this. I mean, I don't like Reagan on a lot of stuff, but on his foreign policy, especially now even more than ever, he knew how to deal with the Soviets. Freaked a lot of you guys out in Europe. All my European buddies would always get so pissed off about Reagan. But in retrospect, I mean, I remember way back, because I'm old enough, I remember doing my study abroad in Europe when you guys were either discussing or already building Nord Stream 1. And it was the big discussion because the Americans were like, the Russians are going to screw you. They're going to use that pipeline, the gas pipeline, and hold it over your head. And the Europeans were like, no, they won't. This is creating friendship. The more we tie and, the more we do business with the Russians, we create friendship. And then, oops, but it is true. Reagan would know how to deal with, but also Reagan was willing to reach a deal with the Soviets. He was willing to tell the Russians, but also he was totally willing to reach a deal with them and got a good deal. He got several good arms treaties, that was wild. Pedro says there was a Latvian member of the European Parliament who is accused of spying for Russia and doing it for ideological reasons, not even doing it for money. Like she was doing it for ideological reasons, and apparently there's a lot of proof backing it up. I mean, what people have been saying here is, thanks, Rockstar, appreciate that. People have been saying here in the States, if the Russians are hiring European members of parliament, who are they hiring in the U.S.? Who else are they hiring? I mean, it's cute because one of the things we like to think is, that would be silly. I mean, even when I talk about it, it feels that way. That would be silly to say Russia has some, U.S. member of Congress that they're paying. That would be, or some presidential candidate or some past president. That's just the Donald Trump stuff. Thank you, Jeff. I mean, journalists in general still play games with the Donald Trump stuff like, that's just ridiculous that he'd be bought by somebody. Why is it ridiculous? Russia does it. Russia does it all the time. I don't think it's, thank you, Jeff. I don't think it's most of the GOP, and could he, by the way, they also could have bought somebody on the far left as well. But come on, I also think, I think some of these right-wing groups in our country, probably some of the money goes back to Russia, but I'm talking like some of the crazy right-wing groups. I think certainly some of the white supremacists and those crazy things, the Russians absolutely, it's in their interest to figure out, get them money and get it revved, get those groups more powerful, Mysterios says, I'm from Latvia. We know that woman is on Russia's side. Now, did you always know she was on Russia's side, even though, of course, there wasn't proof she was working for them? But was she always just crazily pro-Russia? Or did she do it in a sly, thank you, Monica. Did she do it in kind of a sly way? Yes. Okay. So she was obvious, but she did it for a while with impunity, right? Interesting though. Yeah. Well, and there was the Estonian professor guy or whatever that was also working for Russia, right? The guy, they just got him too. Or at least alleged, right? George Galloway. Even I know who George Galloway is. Yeah, well, you know who else you should keep an eye on is what's his face? That lunatic. I still don't understand how you people did this in the Labor Party. That lunatic who headed up your Labor Party. How the hell did you people pick that guy? I still blows my mind. I mean, as somebody who's sympathetic to your politics, like, what were you thinking? You know who I mean, the white-haired Corbyn. Dear Lord. I mean, thank God you didn't win. No offense, but Jesus Christ, what were you? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you don't have a choice the way your politics work, but don't all your members get together and vote? Did you have that many crazy members? I have to look it up sometime, but my God, what a POS that man is. Dear Lord. I mean, wow. I don't know, Poppy. Poppy says, do you think more politicians should be formally educated in political science? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Thank you, Alexander, for the heart. Not necessarily. Thank you. No, thank you. Too funny, no money. I don't know if Sturmer isn't much better. Is he really not, though? I mean, you could say the politics you don't like, but I mean, Corbyn was an anti-Semite. Like, he's pro-Russian. I mean, it's like having, Orban. I mean, or this Latvian woman. I mean, he's insane. He's not just far left. He's insane. That's what I mean. Sturmer, that's what I'm saying. Callum's saying Starmer isn't a security risk. I don't know enough about Starmer, but I mean, I know Keir Starmer. I know your guy. He's your leader, but I exactly like Corbyn. Corbyn's like a freaking traitor in my view. I mean, oof, God. Yeah, God. Yeah, no, the party leaders, it's your party that gets together and votes, but how the hell could they support that guy? I mean, God, just crazy. Anyway. He wasn't anti-Semitic. Don't even go there. Don't even go there. Even I know enough about British politics to know that. Please, give me a break. Corbyn was the previous head of the Labour Party in the UK, the left-wing party, the big left-wing party. Yeah. No. Jill Stein. Jill Stein is not just a Looney Tune, but how do I put this? She's awfully friendly with Vladimir Putin and the Russian government and with their views on everything, but also them personally. That's what I'll say about Jill Stein. Awfully friendly in a very creepy way. And her views just happen to match up perfectly with his too. Lovely woman. Anti-American scum that she is. Yeah, she runs as the Green Party, but the Green Party in America is not the Green Party in Europe. The Green Party in America is crazy people. It's literally just crazy people. I mean, it has nothing to do with the Green Party in Europe. It's like pro-Russian crazy people. I mean, that's literally, I don't know how else to describe them. It's not like they're some environmental party or whatever it is. They're just a pro-Russian crazy party. Yeah, but they call themselves green, which honestly, I guess there's nothing you guys can do about it in Europe, to sort of say, stop using our name. But yeah, they're just, she's a total nut job. But she was photographed back several years ago. Let me pull up the picture. She gets invited to Moscow to have dinner at this award ceremony and she sits next to Putin. She sits at Putin's table. I mean, forget the Green Party. She's Wacky Tunes Party. I mean, nobody. She's a nobody, but she's this fringe pro-Russian, gets invited to dinner with Putin. Who else is at the table? That lunatic, oh my God, I forget his name, Michael Flynn, who was Donald Trump's national security advisor for all of 10 days. And they found out he lied about his ties with the Russian ambassador. Thank you, Lori. Let me pull up this picture. I mean, creepy and he's the other one. Donald Trump's national security advisor a few years before was invited to Putin's table, flew him all the way to Moscow for this whole thing and put him at Putin's small little table. And a couple years later, Trump hires him. This is how creepy these people are. No, the Trump thing was so freaking corrupt. I'm sorry, but no Democrat, and I say this not in a, like the Democrats should get away with it, no Democrat would get away with what Donald Trump did because it was so corrupt, so un-American and anti-American what that man did on so many levels, including hiring people that clearly were in Putin's pocket. And people just didn't freaking care. Hang on, Jill Stein, Moscow, here we go. It'll be the first thing to come up. Oh, yeah, here it is. So, oops, here we go. Oops. Save photo. Let me see if hopefully this pulls it up nicely so I can show you guys. But as I said, it's not just that. It's Donald Trump's national security advisor. Yeah, so here we go. I mean, I'll show you guys, and then I'll read it off after you see it. Jill Stein's the woman with the white hair in the bottom corner. Putin, of course, is sitting across from her. And Michael Flynn's right next to Putin. The guy who ends up a couple years later being Donald Trump's national security advisor, right next to Putin. Okay? And again, he's invited as a private American citizen. For you guys, it's not going to be in focus, but that is Jill Stein. That's Putin. That's Michael Flynn, Donald Trump's national security advisor. I mean, Biden's better? Well, I mean, if we're talking about being a traitor to the country, yeah. Are you kidding? He hasn't hired any traitors yet. I mean, come on, guys. No, I'm beyond, after the insurrection, I am beyond the point of even trying to discuss nicely with Trumpers about Trump versus Biden. Biden has his problems, and if you watch my YouTube, my TikTok channel, you will hear me go off on Biden so much it's not even funny. But once Trump tried to violently overthrow the government and end our democracy, I no longer debated with you guys about, well, you disagree a little bit. Hey, Satoshi, good to see you. But who else was here? Cyril Svoboda. Hey, this is for you, copies. Cyril Svoboda, Czech Republic's former deputy prime minister. He was there too. A little Czech appearance there for copies. Really freaking creepy. Really freaking creepy. So basically at the table, the only people at the table were Russians, Putin spokesman, Putin, a film director from where? Amir Kusturica. I don't know where he's from. Him, Jill Stein, the Czech guy, and Michael Flynn. Yeah, Corbyn was there in spirit. Yeah. Hey, Monica. Anyway. When was it? When was it that they did this, guys? When was this? I need reading glasses, so it's hard to get good-looking reading glasses because reading glasses are a dime a dozen. You need to get better-looking glasses. Be nice. Be nice. When was this? Hold on. When was the dinner? Let me pull this up. I know that's not a YouTube question. That's just not even going to vaguely. December 2015. Oh, December 2015. So it's the year before. It's the year that Trump was organizing his presidential campaign. Gee, I forgot about that. Isn't it interesting? He invites the guy that ends up being one of Trump's top foreign policy advisors. Right before he joins on Trump's campaign, he gets invited to go to Moscow on a free trip and gets to sit with Putin. Just a coincidence. Again, this is why people talked about Trump and the Russians. Thank you, Liv. It was so, and thank you, Nick. Trump's Russia connections are as bad as Orban's. And he got away with it because Trump gets away with it but also because in America, we still can't believe that stuff. Like we said, like the Latvia, you had this member of parliament, European Parliament, who was literally working for the Russians. And they just found that out. We can't believe that kind of stuff here. It's just, we'd be like, come on, right? Come on. You know, the Russians bought or tried to buy at least Trump's national security advisor the year before. Actually, the year Trump ran. Trump was already talking about it. Obviously 2015, because 2016 was the election. So it was the year before the election. Of course, Trump was already like about to either have this guy or had this guy as his national security. Actually, hold on. This is crazy. Now I'm even more upset about this. Where did I put my glasses? Hang on. Security advisor. Let me see here. Yeah, what I don't know is what Michael Flynn... Now you got me curious. Michael Flynn, Moscow dinner. I want to know... Yeah. Oh, this wasn't known until 2017. Wait a minute. This wasn't known until 2017? Ooh. Guess who came to dinner with... Oh, no. This was who else was there. One second here. Michael Flynn was already advising Trump's presidential campaign when he was paid he was paid $45,000 to speak at the gala in Moscow. Oh, I thought he just got paid to go to the event. Like they just paid his way. They paid his way, gave him $45,000 to speak at the event. He was already working for Trump at this point. He was already a Trump presidential campaign advisor. I mean, do you see what I'm saying, guys? Like, this is why America, we had this whole thing of Trump and Russia. The stuff is so freaking creepy. It was so freaking creepy. And again, if a Democrat had done it, thank God a Democrat would have been held accountable. But the Republicans get away with this stuff. He was already advising the Trump campaign, and they paid him Putin paid him $45,000 to speak at a gala in Moscow. It's I forgot about the money. I totally forgot about the money. Oh, God. No, but this is also what is so scary about what's happened to our country now and how, and it is the MAGA crowd, but how they've neutered the media. They've convinced their own people to no longer believe in independent press. This is why 70% of Republicans literally think Donald Trump won the election last time, which is insane and dangerous and crazy. And you've got to do some real introspection if you're a Republican and you believe that. Even if you're a Republican, period, you've got to do some real worrying because that many crazy people believe this stuff. But it's not a matter of Democrats versus Republicans. It is incredibly dangerous for our democracy. Oh, he's a Serbian actor and singer. Okay, I was wondering about that. So Kusturica, maybe? Okay, thanks, Laura. I was wondering about that. Oh, thank you, Nick. Oh, that's a cool... I think I've only seen that one once before. Maybe the lightning storm. Very cool. Thank you. Now, I can't tell because I've got my mic plugged in. Does the lightning storm actually like make noise? Because with my mic plugged in, it kills the sound for me. Because otherwise I don't need sound on TikTok. But I'm going to assume it does a lightning, like a thunder thing. Does it? That was very cool. Thank you. Didn't? Okay, so it didn't? Okay. Okay, just curious. Okay. Because some of them make sound too. Anyway, oh my God. Yeah, I mean, Snow Kim says, I'm a Republican, but not MAGA, and that's why I'm not a party member anymore. I mean, the hard part is that, right, a lot of Republicans just leave, understandably, but God, I mean, it's just, yeah. Well, and they're pushing now Vivek, that crazy Indian American guy that was running for president as a MAGA guy. He was quasi pushing today. There's a conspiracy theory the Republicans are now pushing. This is great. And Vivek kind of was pushing it a little today too. That, what's her name? I don't even know her name because I don't know who this was. I know she's a singer. Taylor Swift. I know of her name, but I don't know who she is. I don't know if I've ever heard her music. I'm into rock. I'm into like progressive rock, but I know she's big. I don't know who she is. I mean, I know of her, but Taylor Swift, the conspiracy theory is that Taylor Swift conspired with George Soros, and she and Soros didn't like each other in 2019. But then in 2020, they suddenly liked each other. So clearly Soros bought her off, is the theory, I think. And that her boyfriend is now like the Kansas City Chiefs or whatever, that one of the football teams that's going to the Super Bowl, which is the big World Cup of football in our country, of football, American football. And the theory is that she and her boyfriend and George Soros have conspired, and they're going to throw the Super Bowl next month, that it's already a done deal. That, one second, Sash, just wait, that it's already a done deal, that her boyfriend's team is going to win so she can get up and say, vote for Joe Biden. And Joe Biden will win the election because Democrats, with Taylor Swift at the lead, have stolen the Super Bowl with George Soros' help. I kid you not. Really, this is starting to go around. Yes, and you foreigners may not realize this, you non-Americans. Republicans now, in the last 2 months, they've decided they hate her. Now, I don't even know what caused this. I really don't. What did cause this, guys? Republicans hate Taylor Swift. They think she's the devil. They think they call it a cultural conspiracy. Here's the thing, too. You guys who know her will laugh at this. They claim there's a cultural conspiracy to make her popular, that she wouldn't be popular unless Democrats had created a conspiracy in the culture with the media to make her popular, and that Democrats will use her popularity to win the election. It's insane. I like Diane. I'm a Republican and I love her. I'm going to have to listen to some of her music. Maybe there's something I recognize. She went after a Tennessee Republican. Is that what happened? I mean, and the thing is, I will tell you this. If Republicans are freaking out about Taylor Swift, it's because they perceive her as a threat. Yeah. But I mean, quite literally, forget the stealing the Super Bowl thing. Republicans absolutely went nuts on Taylor Swift about 2 months ago and made her enemy number one. Fox News talking about her. They're literally trying to demonize Taylor Swift as, the new enemy of America and blah, blah. This guy, it's just like, you people are just, she's a singer. And she's super popular, which would strike me as kind of a dumb move too. I mean, she's got 500 million followers on like Twitter or something, on social media. I mean, 500 million. This is not somebody you just say, you go after and win, Oh my God. Yeah. I like Stooge. All caps. Everyone loves Taylor Swift except literally insane people. Annette says they hate her because she told her fans to make sure they register to vote. And majority fans are young and most likely would vote Democratic. Wait, did she not even tell them to vote for Democrats? She literally simply told her fans to register to vote? But seriously, did she? I mean, I'm curious because that's like especially bad if she didn't even tell them to register as Democrats. Because then she was literally just saying vote. She only advised them to register. Oh my God. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, this is my point, guys. This is my point about how bad or how crazy the politics have gotten with, and again, it's the Republican Party. It's not American politics. The woman told young people to register to vote, and they freaked out. And they have to demonize her because young people tend to vote Democratic. So if she's telling Democrats to vote, we must stop her. My God. Well, glad to hear it, PC Noel. Well, because you're a normal Republican, clearly. I mean, there are still some, but I know a lot of normal Republicans who now just no longer vote for Trump, and that's but who do they vote for? There isn't like much alternative out there in Republican land now. You know, so many of the people in the party just caved. You know, wow, that's crazy. Wow, good for you, Christoph. Wow, that's funny. Okay, then that's even funnier. It's a whole. Yep, Jon Stewart's coming back to TV, which should be interesting. I always enjoyed his show. He's very good. Very good. He's an American political comedian. And it's funny. He kind of played games which I didn't like. He always played this game of, I'm just a comedian. He's not just a comedian. He's a political commentator comedian who did a comedy show that was brilliant political analysis. And it was a brilliant political analysis talk show, comedy show. But he always would pretend to go, I'm just a comedian. It's like, stop it. Because you're not just a comedian. I mean, he really is a political analyst. Very smart guy. He's to the left of me, but he's very just, whew, boy. You know? Yep, I hear you, Kirk. So yeah, he had the Daily Show. He was the host, and then he left several years ago because he did it forever. But he's going to come back once a week, I think, because the Trump stuff is freaking him out a little bit. But it'd be great if he came back every night because he's great, you know? Oh, interesting. That's interesting, Annette. I'm not surprised. Thank you, Super Hornet. Yeah, Jon Stewart has done a lot of work on, I believe, the 9/11, the families of the first responders, you know, emergency medical, all that kind of stuff, fire department. Thank you, Hazel, for the first responders to September 11th because they inhaled all that stuff. Thank you, Frank. And, you know, from the buildings blowing up, and it gave them all sorts of diseases that they weren't really being taken care of. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what he was, you know, and veterans too. He did something with veterans too. Yeah, recently with veterans. Dawn says, I met John's wife, Tracy, last week. She's very involved helping homeless in New Jersey. Lovely person. Oh, that's neat. Yeah, good night, Callum. That's very cool. Burn pits? Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. Burn pit victims. I don't even know what's the burn pit issue. I don't even know what it is. I'm assuming soldiers, U.S. troops in the Middle East. What were they burning? They were burning suspected Iraqi chemicals, I'm going to guess, or what was it? I'm trying to remember. Oh, Afghanistan. Let me see what this was. Burning garbage at bases, but why would that? Let me see here. Just curious why that would cause problems, though. Let me just say, I mean, it's been a while. This was back in, well, two years ago, only a year and a half ago. It will provide assistance to veterans who were exposed to harmful chemicals during their service, such as, Agent Orange during Vietnam. Okay, that's different. Or toxins from pits. Thank you, Cheryl. Or toxins from pits used to burn military waste in Iraq and Afghanistan. Interesting. Wow, the Department of Defense estimates that about 3.5 million service members could have been exposed to burn pits in the Middle East. 3.5 million? Such chemicals can cause respiratory illnesses and cancer to those exposed, medical experts say. That's crazy. I actually never really was up on the issue. What the hell were they burning? Wow. Well, and President Biden's son, Beau, who got brain cancer, could have been from the pits. Yeah, of course, the article doesn't say why that would necessarily, put out, unless I guess the idea is you're burning your garbage. And if you're burning all your garbage and you're breathing in burning your garbage, you're breathing in everything. So everything, right, plastics, there you go, mixed with diesel, jet fuel. So the idea is literally, actually think of it this way, I guess. Think of the stuff you throw out in the garbage, including your recyclables, and imagine burning it and breathing that stuff every day. I would not want to breathe what's coming out of my garbage, not just because it's garbage, but because the plastics and papers and everything else, right? So it's chemicals from that coming up, and these guys are breathing it every day. Yeah, and literally crap, like literal feces. Wow. I saw Platoon, but I don't remember anymore. Batteries, yeah. So it's okay. So it's all sorts of scary stuff because you have no choice but to burn everything. Okay. Wow, that's scary. I just never knew all the details on it. Wow. Darren says, we got injected with a cocktail of chemicals for Gulf War I. Loads of squatties got sick. Oh, that's interesting. Wow. Okay. Very interesting. All right. Yeah, I knew about the 9/11 stuff that he did, September 11th. And I vaguely knew about the veterans, but I didn't know much about Gulf War syndrome. Exactly. Yep. Thank you, Angel and Critter. All right, guys, we've been going for an hour and 40. I think it may be time to call it quits. I had my little coffee before the show, so I'm still like revving. I'm yawning, but I'm still revving. All right, that's very cool, though. Wow. Yeah, that's a big deal. Wow, that's a very big deal. Good for him. Anyway, so that's who Jon Stewart is. Thank you, Juan, for the hat. All right, yeah, see you, Ash. All right, guys. Another hour on Discord? No, Max. I mean, I would, but not. I try to do. The problem is with Discord is I like to start Discord at the hour, so then we go for another 45 minutes or whatever. But it's been an hour and 40. I'd rather not do Discord now. Also, I sort of vaguely try to preserve my voice. That one time I lost my voice last year, or the first year. Maybe it was the first year. Still could have been COVID or something weird. I think there was something going around that did it at the time. But although I've noticed my voice getting raspier though, so I do need to be careful that I don't ruin my voice during the show. I get too excited. Anyway, all right, guys. It was the first year. Yeah, I was going to say it's been 2 years. Yeah, wild. All right, let's say goodnight, guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the gifts. Ridiculous, you guys, tonight with the gifts. So thank you. Mods, lots of fun going after the trolls. We don't really care. Oh, Ryan, you're pushing it. If we were staying longer, Ryan, you could prove if you're a troll, but I think you are. Let me conclude with one thing. Since Ryan wants to talk about World War II, let's talk about Ryan's friend, the Russians, in World War II. You know what the Russians did? The Russians actually had a pact with Hitler. It's called the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Go check it out. The Russians had a pact with Hitler, a secret agreement. They gave Hitler permission to invade Europe. Hitler invaded Europe and started the war because the Russians said, don't worry, we're not going to go to war with you. Have fun invading and the Holocaust and all that stuff. Just have fun, right? So the Russians go and invade Europe, and 2 years later, what do? They go and they invade Russia. Big surprise, Nazis, not the allies the Russians thought they were. So the Nazis turn around and invade Russia. Russia's now at war. Well, what does the U.S. do? We have no choice because we're trying to save Europe and save ourselves. We ally with the Soviets, the Russians, to defeat the Nazis. What do the Russians do to thank us after World War II for beating the Nazis? They go and invade and take half of Europe as theirs. The Russians created a Soviet communist dictatorship in all the European countries east of Germany, including half of Germany. They took half of Germany, cut the country in half, or a third, and created as an independent East Germany, one of the worst dictatorships you have ever seen. Perfect mods. Yep, that was going to say. By the way, I'll tell you, created the worst dictatorship the world has seen other than North Korea in Eastern Europe. Horrific police states. East Germany, 1/3 of the population of East Germany, the government had files on them, secret files on 1/3 of their population they spied on. Thank you, Juan. Horrific what the Soviets did and what the Russians did in Europe. Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania. Horrific what they did in Romania. I mean, the dictatorship there, particularly bad. Okay? I mean, they actually ate the Slavic, the Baltic countries, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, just took them over and made them part of the Soviet Union, part of Russia, basically. Yugoslavia was a little more complicated because that was outside of the orbit, a little more complicated with Tito. But horrific with what Russia did. So that little troll wanted to talk about Ukraine and World War II. Let's talk about Russia and World War II and the horrific things that country did. So yeah. And my final point here, which I've told the mods before, and that Ryan guy proved it. Whenever you suspect someone's a troublemaker and here just to, like some pro-Russian plant that's here just to cause trouble, I always say this. 1 second, Sash, she wants water. Give them a chance to if their first comment is suspicious, give them a chance to make a second comment because they won't be able to control themselves. And that guy just did it. He just did it. I won't even get into it, but his second comment was pure Russian troll going after Ukraine. And it was just like, yep. They will always expose themselves. They will always reveal themselves because the trolls, as we call them, are literally the people who come just to throw bombs, basically. A lot of them are working for the Russians. They just come to throw bombs. And because that's their job, they can't, thank you, Hazel, they can't say anything normal because they'll get in trouble. So if they say something weird, you just wait for another comment or two and they're going to say something even worse. Anyway, thank you, Juan. So yes. The evil the Soviets did in Europe, horrific evil. And the Russians were the ones who did it. I mean, the Russians were the ones who did it. Horrific what those people did. So yeah, let's talk about World War II, buddy. All right, there we go. All right, guys, have a good night. That was our history lesson for the evening, though most of you already knew it, I suspect. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S., our usual show, Monday to Friday. 6 o'clock Eastern, East Berlin, exactly. Oh, yeah, that cut Berlin's its own story, exactly. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for joining us, okay? All right. Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Burp, 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 burp. All right. Burp. Sorry, I got to slowly figure out where the software